So obviously there have been watches that have been lost or stolen, and we are watching out for you. Got that pun? Watching out for you as far as how to prevent that from happening.
Oh, I'm not going to let that one slide. Nope. No way. There's no way I'm letting that one slide.
Who's watching out for you? I'll just confess, my greatest transgression in terms of watch security has always come on a plane, because I like to take my watch off when I'm flying. I do swell a little bit, and I like to sleep, and I can't sleep with the watch on.
Really? Ever?
Honestly, I tried to do it the last time I was on a plane. I tried to sleep with my watch on. I wanted to see if I could, and I woke up like an hour and a half into it. I looked at my wrist, and I said, no, this is not going to work.
It's just general discomfort for you.
I notice that it's there, especially on a plane. You're in tight quarters. Everything is getting narrower and smaller. And I guess anything strapped to my wrist, I'm not used to it. I've never slept with a watch on. I think it just because it's different, I notice that it's there.
Fun fact, I used to sleep with every single watch that I had.
At the same time?
Yeah, on every single limb. Yeah. Every watch that I owned at one point in time, I slept with that watch.
Huh.
I don't know, maybe it was just my wild partying days where I would just come home and pass out. Even to this day, I could sleep with a watch on. I don't really have any discomfort. It's not that big of a deal.
Right to that point, the greatest danger for losing your watch is going to be when you take it off. So what you have to pay attention to, and this is what we're probably going to talk about, is what to do with your watch when you take it off so that you don't forget it somewhere.
Sure, and what to do with your watch if you're going places and if you're going to be using your watch in different capacities. So,
right.
Like your friend / customer who went to Hawaii and lost his Rolex in the sea for however many years. You don't want to be that statistic. So we're going to talk about that. And also, if you do wear it and you're wearing it underwater, make sure that it's in good nick because you don't want to damage it. So it's not just about losing the watch, just like, hey, I lost it, it's gone forever. There's another way of losing your watch.
Right.
You can damage your watch, and unless you have it insured, you're not going to get that watch back or a replacement back.
No part of this is meant to say that you shouldn't use your watch. I'm the biggest champion of using your watch.
Totally, that's what they're for.
If you're going snorkeling and you have a diving watch, you are basically required to wear it.
Well, I mean, just, in reference to your comment about the guy who lost his watch in the sea while swimming, ensure that at least the mechanical condition of the bracelets, mechanical meaning that the pins and everything are secure.
Right.
One of my fears is when I'm driving my car and I have my hand a little bit outside
you and
the
I
window.
have that same fear.
So I have this phobia that the watch is going to fall off my wrist, and I'm not going back for it on the freeway, that's for sure.
I never put my hand, unless I'm stopped, I never put my hand outside the window.
I don't know. So it's just sometimes I feel like doing that.
Yeah.
But I know that I've taken care of all my bracelet pins and all that, and they're all nice and stainless steel and solid. But
right.
It's something to think about. I think
Totally.
All watch owners should be aware of that, whether they have their wrist outside the window or they're swimming or whatever.
Let's go back to the theft, loss, all that good stuff or bad stuff. A lot of people, they go to the gym, right?
Oh, yes.
What do? When I go to the gym, but I have this luxury where I can go home first. There's a gym in my office building. There's a safe place. For example, I could leave it in my office and I could lock it up tight, and that's it. I'm off and running, literally, sometimes.
Obviously, the best answer is not to bring your watch to the gym at all, but we're going
inside the gym.
Exactly. So not to bring your watch inside the gym. So there are a few ways you can avoid doing that. Obviously, like you just said, leave it at your home or office. I do the same thing if I can. But the next best option, which I often use, is if the watch is with me in person when I'm going to the gym and I don't want to make a detour to drop the watch off, I lock it in the trunk. Most car trunks are very secure. You can literally, mechanically lock out your trunk so that it is not accessible even if somebody breaks the windows into your car. Unless you think that somebody's going to have the time and the capacity to have a blowtorch in the parking lot at your gym. Hopefully somebody would notice that and stop them before they're able to access your watch.
Right, and really logically, just long-term, don't leave anything in your car that is of value, wherever it is.
Right.
If you're going to do that, at least don't parade it to everybody, or at least, to passers-by that you're taking your watch off and you're sticking it in a trunk. Definitely, wrap it in something like old newspaper or a hat or an old t-shirt or a plastic bag or whatever, so it doesn't look like you're throwing anything valuable in there.
Right.
I mean,
Don't take out your Hermes Birkin and put in your solid gold day date.
Yeah.
And hold it up high so that everybody can see in your Bentley Continental.
Yeah, preferably use the gym shirt that you wore the last time to the gym and wrap the watch up in that and put that in the
Sure.
trunk.
I mean,
Pretend
that
it's
could
like
work.
laundry or something.
Any kind of deterrent that you can use,
Exactly.
just go for it.
I was talking about flying before.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually share with somebody what I do because I don't like to have the watch on, like I said, when I'm sleeping. And I happen to know there are plenty of people that have lost watches, not lost, but have left their watches on the plane. And as a result, they've lost them.
Right.
And so what I do, since I also take off my shoes, simply put my watch in my shoe. And I won't forget to put my shoes on, and I can't put my shoes on with the watch in there. That problem tends to solve itself.
You must have decent foot hygiene because some people probably won't do that. I mean, I know several people that I would advise not to do that, especially if they have a leather bracelet, or a leather band, rather.
You're saying there might be a premature patina on their watch?
I'm saying that there's all kinds of moldy, fungusy type of things where you just don't want. I mean, listen, if they've got it on their feet, I'm sure they'll be all right with it on their wrist too. So
Yeah, maybe that's going to be the next trick with bronze watches.
right, maybe.
What? You want instant patina
Right.
in a used shoe?
When you get into your destination, suppose that you are on your flight to Hawaii. We talked about how you need to check your bracelet. You want to make sure that your spring bars and your pins are in good nick. They're in good order and everything is as tight as it needs to be. What about the actual watch itself? Because if you're going diving, and especially, I don't know if it's going to affect it that much. This is going to be an answer for you. You're going from different types of pressures, right? You're going from an airplane and then you're going into the water. So
it's a good point you bring up because especially if you have a thinner watch where the gaskets and the crystal, everything is basically thin. And once you get on that flight, and obviously there is a cabin pressure is usually pressurized and it's a lower pressure, it tends to force the crystal out, the pressure difference. So there's quite often a shift in a movement in the components, the casing components, not the movement components, especially at the crystal level. So if the crystal is held in by what we call an eye gasket or a plastic gasket, and if that gasket hasn't been replaced in, say, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 years, and it's kind of dry, now you have had a little shift in the crystal and it kind of moves up. So now you get off the plane, now things have shifted, and the case is basically no longer moisture proof as it was before you got on the plane. Of course, you go to the sauna, you go diving, or you're sitting by the pool, it's a hot day, and then
or it's humid.
Or it's, humid, whatever the condition, and then you jump in the pool, so you have a sudden temperature variation from, say, 100, 120 degrees to, 70 degrees. That forces moisture to get inside the watch. So moisture resistance or water resistance is crucial. We always like to say that water resistance is not permanent. So that goes hand in hand with the safety of your watch, is to make sure that the integrity of the case and a bracelet, of course, is in good function.
Right.
So you can safely take it wherever you want and not risk having it leak.
I mean, it's literally in the word resistant.
Yes.
It's not proof. And anytime you see a proof on a watch, if it's waterproof, it's probably some kind of Chinese bullshit that
It's
you
probably
got.
a registered style.
Right.
And some of you will know.
Just a solid block of poo is
Yeah.
what it is. All right, so you go traveling, you put your watch in your shoe, you get to your destination, you're swimming, you've checked everything, right? Everything's good, everything's solid. What other kind of scenarios can we have? Where else can you lose a watch?
It's implicit in what you were just saying, but when you're traveling, best advice is to wear a watch that you won't have to take off because, like we were saying before, the safest place will probably be on your wrist because you won't really lose it that way, provided all of these things that we just said are in order. That your watch is in order, it's safe on your wrist. So wear something that you won't have to take off. If you're going to Hawaii, wear something that has, let's say, 100 meters of water resistance so that you can go snorkeling. And
I mean,
if you're going to go
50,
diving,
right? I mean, who
Right.
could, like, unless you're an experienced diver, you're not going to go any further than 50 meters. 50 meters is a lot. That's meters. It's not feet.
Yeah.
Well, take your Casio G-Shock or
Sure.
something.
Yeah.
Why risk it? Whatever the brand is.
Well, unless you want to show off that you're,
Well,
you're a somebody and bling bling a
Hey.
little bit.
Well, that's fine. I mean, if you want to take the risk, but at least, take some of the precautions that we're talking about here.
But a lot of people would argue, it's like that doesn't. It's not about the money. Suppose that they have, I don't know, a golden Daytona, right? I mean, that's decent money, and that's their daily beater, and that's their daily watch. And we're not saying this is guaranteed. Obviously, I kind of need to throw that statement out there because I feel like just being in California. The whole litigious thing, it's like we need to make everything super blatant, like super, super literal.
we assume no responsibility
Right.
or liability by
Exactly.
giving you any of this advice.
Exactly. This is not legal advice. Yeah. I mean, but if you are wearing a blingy, Rolex, or especially a Rolex, really, because most people would recognize a Rolex. Hey, that's one that I'd like to steal.
The low resistance, simple solutions can accommodate more than 90% of all of the issues. So keep your watch in good order. Wear a watch that you don't have to take off. And if you have a watch that you're worried might attract too much attention, long sleeves
Totally.
are your friend.
Yeah. Just put the sleeve over.
And you know what? To all of you people who have watches that don't fit under your cuff, that's why they're stupid.
Hopefully common sense to some of our younger listeners and just people that are, I would say, involved with social media. And it doesn't matter what kind of social media, whether it be Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, does not matter. We take a lot of wrist shots, and what we don't sometimes realize is the photo contains geotagging. So if you go on a certain person's profile, you can actually see where that photo was taken. It's not difficult to find that. So if you have a pattern and you take photos quite often within that pattern and you are taking photos of your watch within that pattern, I haven't really done much research as to how many incidences like that there have been, but there have been those types of incidences. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how stalkers do their work.
Isn't that what they did to the Kardashians, I think?
It's possible. It's very possible. Anything Kardashian, I just want to stay away from.
You understand we're in their territory.
We are, yeah. We totally. Oh, well, here's another thing is like geotagging. We're not really supposed to say where we are, but I'm not putting my address out there.
Do not include the geotag. When you tag a photo on Instagram, if you are easy to find, everything in your photos will be easy to find.
Absolutely.
Kind of common sense.
Right. Yeah. But, unfortunately, people just, even if it's common sense, listen, I like to think that I have a decent amount of common sense. But, we were just talking about the car stuff. I was one of those dopes that got a watch that was stolen from me. I had a convertible, I had a Honda S2000, and I left for literally a couple of hours. I had left my backpack, I had left my school books, I was in college, and I had left my beloved IWC, that my first beloved IWC that my brother had bought me. Actually, I've never told this story before, but this is what it was. I left the watch in a jacket, okay?
Oh, no.
In a jacket with my backpack on top of the jacket. And mind you, I had an aftermarket sound system. I had an iPod that was just literally like, it was in the S2000 on the bottom where the gearbox is, there's a little pouch. That's where the iPod was. And they left that and they took the jacket and they took the backpack because they cut my roof open. So that was my first beloved IWC. And the only reason I was able to get it back was because I had insurance on it. And it wasn't a very easy process, because I had to battle with my insurance company. And this is before, there are different products. I mean, I hate to make this about insurance, but there are different products out now that would make your life a lot easier. But at that particular time, and even if you do buy insurance, just why go through that hassle? Especially if it's something that's sentimental.
But you make a very good point. Just insure your watches. It's cheap enough, it's easy enough, and it just adds all that peace of mind. If you're ever in the unfortunate situation where you're at gun or knife point or you're being threatened in any way.
Exactly. That's a great point. Just give it away. It's not worth it.
Exactly. Just think of yourself in that situation. Just take it off, give it to them, and don't have a second thought about it.
Right. It's easy to say that now, but if something with real sentiment, right?
That's
like
a different
my
story.
watch.
Yeah, you can't insure sentiment.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it's tough. I mean, really, at the end of the day, whatever that sentiment is, it's not worth your life.
If it is a valuable watch, it most likely has a serial number, a
That's
model
right.
number, and hopefully you've
Unless
been
it's a
wise.
Hoyer.
Yeah, well, and if you've been wise enough to have all those numbers in your possession, it most likely is going to show up at a pawn shop somewhere.
That's
so
right.
if you inform the authorities, they'll be on the alert. In fact, I know one brand at least that has a special division to where if your watch is lost or stolen, and you call them up, you say, hey, my watch was lost or ripped off. If it ever does turn up, they'll let you know.
In the service center or...
Yeah, when it goes in for service, it might be in a few years down the road.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah,
And
I've heard stories
Can,
like
can I say who it is? Or
Please.
Basically, I know Rolex does that.
I know for a fact that Rolex does that. I know that one of my father's clients recovered a few very valuable watches because they were sent in for service. I don't know if they were sent in or if a watchmaker had ordered parts, but through after sales, they were discovered.
Here's another bit of advice that I can give. If you are buying a watch that is not a Rolex, that does not have that type of aftermarket support, that's not the right term.
After sales.
After sales there you
support,
go.
Yeah.
If you buy a watch that does not have that type of after sales support, what you need to do is you need to document the hell out of that watch. Any and all imperfections, any and all defining characteristics of that watch. It's kind of like, you're doing almost a forensic autopsy without really taking the watch apart.
Sorry to interrupt you, but without making it overcomplicated for people, when you insure a watch, I would imagine that any decent insurance company is going to ask for the serial number anyway.
Yes.
So on whatever documentation you have to give to the insurance company, again, insure your watch, you should, and I'm not in the insurance business, but just do it.
Right.
You'll have the serial number that is unique to your watch, and any decent appraisal will have a detailed enough description of your watch that you can use it to file a police report and use it for any related purposes.
Right.
And while we're on the subject of that, I don't know if you're aware, but any decent repair shop will also document the serial number and the model number and then the serial number of the movement if it has one. So if you don't have that information but you've had it repaired, say, I don't know, a few months, years ago, chances are the last person who serviced it has documented, especially if it's a Rolex, because you have to submit the monthly report and so on.
But
and
that's if you're an authorized Rolex service center.
Yes, and or a reputable repair person.
Right.
Because it's the right thing to do is to
That's just
document.
another reason to go to a reputable repair person.
Right. I mean, if you have a receipt, which they should give you a detailed repair invoice along with information that would identify your watch.
Let's just go ahead and round everything up. The most important thing is just to have common sense. Just be logical about what you're doing. Don't be stupid.
Yeah. There are no big secrets and tricks to this.
Right.
It really is common sense.
Yeah.
As much as possible, keep your watch on. If you're in a dangerous area, cover it up. If you have to take your watch off, make sure it's secured. That's really the long and short of it.
What he said.
Bye.
Bye-bye. This episode of On Time was recorded and engineered by Michael Senderovich with supervision by Tim Hatayama.
Team OTP is Kenshu Production and Savada and Dune on social media.
Our theme song was composed and recorded by Hubie Wang, and our expert on this episode is Manuel Yazigian. Follow him on Instagram at Manuel Watchmaker.
And while you're on Instagram, make sure to follow us as well at On Time Podcasts. For the entire OTP team, this is Mike.
And this is Chase. Thank you for listening to On Time.